Well, good morning, everybody, and blessings and praise the Lord to those who are joining us uh, here in our Zoom space, as well as those that are joining us in Facebook and in other places. We're happy to have you and excited for you to be a part of this session that we have planned today. This is our March uh, A.R.K connection, and we know A.R.K for us here at Soul Anchor stands for accountability, knowledge, and accountability, relationship, and knowledge. And this Saturday or this month of March, we have decided that we would use the month of March to concentrate on finance and wealth. Finance and wealth. And so this month we are really gearing all of our teachings and trainings on finance and wealth and what it means to build proper wealth and even looking at what the biblical principles are of finance and wealth. And so we have a few sessions planned this week. This first session here uh, today, March 19th, 12 noon. You've arrived. You're at the right place at the right time. And today's session is going to be focused on building generational wealth. And that's going to be brought to us by a representative from Northgate Financial, Eliyahu Oriel, who is my brother-in-law, my wife's brother. And we're excited to hear the wealth of knowledge that he has to share with us today. And so we're really excited about preparing to hear what he has to share with us. And so we're going to brace ourselves for that in just a moment. But I want to remind you, and I will remind you again at the end, that we do have another session that's coming up on the 25th of March. El Duran Allen will be the presenter, and he will be presenting on the principles of finance and savings. So you don't want to miss that as a kind of follow-up to some of the discussions that we will hear today. And then if you aren't doing anything on Wednesday nights, if you aren't doing anything on Wednesday nights and you find that, hey, you still want some information about being wealthy and obtaining proper finances, well, Soul Anchor left no stone unturned this month. Indeed, we tried to think about just about everything we possibly can. And some of you might be saying, well, what does the Bible say about finance and wealth? What does the Bible tell us we ought to do to be prepared or to properly engage in what we know to be finance and wealth? So every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. in the Facebook space. And if you haven't liked our Facebook page, you ought to go and do so right now. If you haven't liked our Facebook page, you ought to go do so right now. Like our Facebook page and follow so that you can get the wealth of information that we share. But for every Wednesday night for the rest of the month of March, we are going to be dealing with the 7 biblical principles of finance and wealth. And the first video is already out there on Facebook and YouTube. If you missed those first 3 principles, those are out there already. Please, this information is free to you to utilize. And we just hope that folks will consume it and will apply it to their lives. And so really excited about all that we have planned and that will transpire throughout this great month of March here at Soul Anchor Apostolic Church. So without further ado, this session this Saturday is sponsored by our Office of Relationship, and that is led by my wife, Minister Geraldine Evans, and we're grateful for all that she is doing to help us to be better connected in our community here in Kokomo. And we're excited about all that we're going to see in the future from this office. And while we're doing that, I will take a moment and honor our senior pastor, District Elder elect Christine Young, and we're deep praying for her that the Lord will continue to heal her body and give her strength. And to all of those who have joined us from the tribe we're associated with and all of our family and friends. I see lots of folks in our Zoom room as well as out in our Facebook space. We're just really excited that you took the time out to share with us in this session today. And so I am not going to take up any more time from our presenter today. We're going to allow him to come at this time and share as he is led. And then we'll have some opportunities for some questions and answer and then we'll wrap up this afternoon's session. So without further ado, Eliyahu, sir, the floor is yours.
How's everyone doing today? It's a pleasure to be here, be a part of what it is that Brian is doing with wanting to spread the message of financial wealth, generational wealth as well. And our presentation today is going to be along the lines of what generational wealth is, and just kind of like an overview as well. And as he also mentioned, taking a look at the biblical principles as well when it comes to building generational wealth. And so I put together a presentation. It shouldn't be too long. And the way that I normally do my my sessions, I do not mind if people have questions as we're going through. So if something kind of sparks your interest and you want some clarification on something, I don't mind if that happens during the presentation itself. And so let me go ahead and I'll share the screen and we'll get started. Brian, can you enable the ability to share screen?
Sorry about that. Yes, sir. All done.
Perfect. All right. All right. Can everybody see the screen currently?
Yes.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So greetings, friends and family. Let me give some context about myself really quickly. All right. So my name is Eliyahu Oriel. I put some pictures up here to kind of make this a little bit more personalized so you guys can know and learn a little bit about myself. I have some pictures here of me and my family, close friend at his wedding just recently. Some of the interests that I am interested in is gardening and learning how to actually grow food. The picture you'll see me, my wife, my 3 sons. I currently teach a course through a school district where one of the things that I've been able to do is implement a financial literacy component into our workshops as well as team building. I practice Tai Chi, and I actually train Tai Chi as well. On the image all the way to the right, that's one of my mentors that actually inspired me to go about getting my life insurance license and actually digging into and learning more about financial literacy. And then all the way on the right, you'll see a picture of myself and my beautiful wife. And so that's a little bit about myself. And so, like I said, we're going to be talking about building generational wealth. All right. And this is brought to you by Northgate Financial, LLC. And so what our mission is with Northgate Financial is to create innovative strategies for asset protection, develop reliable networks, and a fortified business structure that sustains generational wealth. And so I kind of want to start off with a question. I like kind of, if you're comfortable with chiming in, what do we know about generational wealth right now? Is anyone comfortable sharing, when you hear the phrase generational wealth, what comes to mind?
First, blessings, bro. Strength, prosperity, and collection of gold along with legacy.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. Anyone else care to share in? Thanks for sharing that, Marcel.
I would just say legacy. Legacy would be like what pops in my mind, but that's just what I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Legacy. We're hearing that twice.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, when you do word association, when I hear generational wealth, the first thing that comes to mind is legacy. What you can pass down.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, I would say that, the way that you all are throwing the word legacy out there right now is awesome, right? Because that is a component of it. Now, I have a question. Are we as a community building generational wealth? All right. If you feel that we are as a community, kind of give some context on the ways in which we are, and if you feel like we're not, why do you think we are not developing generational wealth?
I would say no, we're not building as a community. We're not, and because we're not like putting our resources together as a community to build that generational wealth.
Mm, okay, thanks for chiming in on it.
Lack of knowledge. We don't know the importance of it until we have to have these GoFundMe pages and all that. Then we understand why we should have been preparing the whole time.
Gotcha. Okay. Naima, I see a hand up. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think that we are, and mostly because you have to you have to own something in order to be able to pass it down, to your loved ones. And mostly we don't own, as a collective, we don't really own anything.
Got it. All right. So, thank you all for chiming in on and giving feedback to these questions. Yes, I am in agreement with what has been shared. I think knowledge has been withheld, and the great thing about where we are right now in time is that we have the ability to seek out the knowledge that is required for us to be able to establish these things and to change and begin to build these things. And so that's going to be some of the things that we're going to be talking about and looking at. One of the things I want to show is some scriptures pertaining to generational wealth and how it appears in the Bible. And we'll be able to kind of see that when you look through the scriptures, there are plenty of instances where they're showing that it is about legacy, it is about generational wealth, it is about generational wealth being able to grow to a point to where it becomes nation building. And I think those principles applied to us in our community would be amazing. All right, to see it opens up the possibilities for a great future for ourselves, our great grandchildren, and any of our descendants that will come along the way. And so let's take a look at it. The first scripture I want to bring into the mix is from Genesis chapter 41. And this is dealing with Pharaoh and Joseph. All right. And this is just around the time of the 7 years of famine, or 7 years of plenty, followed by the 7 years of famine. So I'm going to read verse 34. It says, "Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through famine." All right, so some additional context. Pharaoh had a dream he couldn't interpret. Joseph, they called him the king of dreams, had the ability to interpret dreams. And so when Pharaoh told him the dream, he understood it immediately to mean that Egypt was getting ready to face calamity. However, before the calamity happened, they were given grace to where there would be 7 years of abundance. And so he's breaking it down and also giving the context that, hey, look, if we save, if we store up enough, then when the economic hard time approaches, we will not find ourselves in dire need, and it will not be as catastrophic as it potentially could be. And so let's continue reading on. And so verse 38. "And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou." And so this is showing that due to the wisdom that Joseph had to prepare and to put Egypt into a position where they would actually be economically sound, even through a downward contraction of their economy. Joseph was raised up from being in prison, because he was in prison before this, to being the second lead in all of Egypt. And as you read on in the story, you'll see that he actually was able to store up enough to where when the famine hit and there were food shortages and there were, just really bad times, the the nation of Egypt was able to provide food for its citizens, as well as sell to neighboring countries who came in need of food and resources. Okay, and so one of the principles and one of the things I come to realize when establishing generational wealth is the ability to have that foresight and the ability to understand patterns that happens when it comes to the economy, right? This is a perfect time for us to start looking at certain patterns because ourselves currently are in positions where we're going to see economic contractions. We will begin to see, certain patterns that have played out over time and over history economically. And this story here is giving some context that Joseph was able to find a way to sidestep that, and it allowed Egypt to soar. All right. The other account is between two twins, the twins Jacob and Esau. All right, and this is from Genesis chapter 25. And to give some context, they both were in the womb together. They were twins, and there's a interesting thing that happened between them two, and we're gonna lay it out right now. And so, verse 22 says, "And the children struggled together within her," and that they're talking about her mother, their mother, right, while they were in the womb. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one shall be stronger than the other people, and the other shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb." All right, so she's finding out that she's going to have twins. And the prophecy that was given to her was that these two twins, each one is going to be a nation in and of itself, right? They're going to grow up to become large nations, and that the younger would end up serving or the elder would end up serving the younger. And so as we continue on, you'll see what that means. And so verse 25, "And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents." And so to give some context, this kind of gives a parallel between Cain and Abel, right? One was a hunter and was of the field, and the other was always growing things. And so kind of there's this parallel, this duality again, that they kind of are, as far as their identity, they operate in two different ways, all right? And so the aspect that one was holding on to the heel of the other is of some significance as well. The fact that when it comes to, when we start to look at the word birthright in just a second, birthright is very important when it comes to the passing down of possessions or assets. All right. And so that symbol in itself, him holding on to the heel, in a certain level, when we look at it, shows that even in the womb they understood the world that they were coming into, and how things operate. All right. And so we look at verse 31. It says, "And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob." All right. So Esau had ended up doing something earlier this day that verse 31 is talking about. And he was at the point of extreme exhaustion and getting ready to, in essence, he felt that he was going to die. And due to that, his brother was preparing a meal for his father because Abraham had just passed away. And so he was grieving the loss of his father. And Esau pretty much wanted Jacob to give him the lentils that he was preparing. And he offered up his birthright in exchange for it, because he said, if I die right now anyway, what good is it going to serve me? It's going to go to you anyway. And so they made the deal, verbal contract, that they agreed upon, that the birthright would go to Jacob. All right. And so, to get some context on why I'm highlighting and bringing into the picture that this aspect of birthright, the birthright is passed down all throughout scriptures, right? And when you're reading through it, you're going to start to notice that how important the birthright is. And it was customary to have a birthright. Okay. Now the word is the Korah in Hebrew, and it means firstborn or firstling or offspring. However, when we look at the second aspect of it, it's primogeniture and the right of primogeniture. And so when we look at the definition of the word primogeniture, it's a noun, and it means the state of being the firstborn child, but also the right of succession belonging to the firstborn child, especially the feudal rule by which the whole real estate and of an intestate is passed to the eldest son. Now, an intestate is an estate that does not have a will made out. Okay, so a will is a document that expresses how things are to be conveyed upon death. All right. Now, what we see here is that in the scripture, dealing with the story between Jacob and Esau, we see the passing down and the concern for the passing down of assets, right? An entire estate. Okay. So the question is, what is generational wealth, right? Because that's what we're talking about today. And so we can look at generational wealth as referring to assets passed by one generation of a family to another. Those assets can include stocks, bonds, and other investments, as well as real estate, family businesses. In recent years, generational wealth has become a focal point in discussions, which is why we're discussing it right now, right? And also about the racial wealth gap and the increasing concentration of wealth in the U.S., because it plays a substantial role in both. And that's one of the things that we're noticing, right? There is a huge wealth gap being created. And one of the things that we're looking at right now is the importance for us to identify what generational wealth is, set these things up to make sure that we can establish some form or catalyst to begin creating and passing down assets to our future generations. So what are the facts? When we look at the median net worth of households, and I'm looking at the chart right here on the left, and this is between 2005 and 2009, all right? And this is from the Pew Research Center tabulations, a survey of income, all right, and program participation data from 2004 and 2008 panels. Now, one of the things I want to bring to the attention, and we're going to look at right now, let's see, well, the light green is 2005, the dark green is 2009. They had it separated by race, okay? And what we're seeing is that pre-2008 financial recession or market collapse of the housing market, we see that the demographic of whites had, before the recession started, amassed in generational wealth or median net worth $134,992. Okay, and that was about the median, right? And when we look at Hispanics, theirs was at $18,359. All right. We look at blacks, theirs were at $12,124. Okay, and then Asians had a really great number when it came to net worth, which was $168,103. Okay, now in 2008, we know that the housing market bubble popped, and as a result, there was a devaluation, or we call deflation, and so the value of assets decreased, and as a result, some net worths were affected. Okay, especially those that were tied up heavily in either stocks or the real estate. Okay, now of the whites, theirs decreased down to 113. So it went from 134,000 down to 113,000. So about a $20,000 depreciation or a loss. Hispanics went down from 18,000 to 6,000. Okay, so about a $12,000 dip in net worth. We're talking. All right. And then blacks went from a $12,000 to a $5,000, so almost about a $7,000 dip. Asians suffered a huge dip, which went from 168,000 to 78,000. All right, and so what we're seeing here is one that we're being outperformed drastically when it comes to the aspect of accumulating net worth. Okay, accumulating and being able to pass down, because part of net worth is, also the aspect of being able to pass down things, right? And so these numbers are, very telling to the scenario that we find ourselves in currently. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the chart on the right. And if anybody, like I said, if anybody has any questions or things like that, please go ahead and place your hand up, or just kind of chime in if you want me to go over anything a little bit more. And so looking at our figure 2 here, we have the real median household income by race and Hispanic origin. And this is going to be from 1967 up into 2019. Okay. And so the real median household income, we look at it and we see the gold line down here at the bottom is representative of black. The blue line right above it is representative of Hispanic or any race. All right. And then the magenta line, or this purple line, is representative of white that is not Hispanic. And then the blue line that enters around the 1970s is Asian. Okay. And now when we look at it, we're looking at the median household income. Okay. And we see over here the projections, or the results, which is $45,000 for black, right? So about 45,500, we'll round that. Hispanics are bringing in about 56,000. White or not Hispanic is bringing in about 76,000, and then Asians are seeing about 98,000. Okay, and so what we're seeing here is that income is drastically lower when we look at household income, and when we also look at when it comes to building net worth. All right, and these things have a huge potential to affect the aspect or ability to build generational wealth. Now, it's still possible, right? We just have to be very, very strategic when we talk about the ways in which we'll go about building generational wealth. But we have to understand where we are currently, and then figure out ways to be able to strategize and fix the issue that we're seeing. Now, we're going to look at some numbers, and this is from 2022 federal poverty guidelines. Now, this at the top of this chart, we're looking at number of people in a household. Okay. And this is pertaining to also the 48 states and DC, and then Alaska and Hawaii have their own set numbers. Now, in a household with just one person, if it's below 13,000, that will be considered to be at the poverty line, right? So these are poverty lines we're looking at. 2 or more, right? It's 18,000. Anything below 18,310 and below will be considered to be in poverty. We're looking at 3 children, or not even just 3 children, but three people in a household, and it's bringing in less than 23,000. That would be considered the poverty line, and it keeps going, right? So if we're looking at 4 people in the household, anything between below 27,750 will be associated with being in poverty. All right. And so as you see, as the number increases in the household, the amount increases, right, for the poverty line. So if we're looking at a family of 6, then the poverty line would be 37,190. Okay. And so this is just giving some context, of what the poverty lines are. And remember, just a second ago, we were looking at the overall median household income, which was 45,000. And, it's not too far above these. All right. So the average is doing just above the poverty lines. All right. And this, is speaking values, the fact that, we're so close to these lines, which, just like I said, we have to find ways to correct it. Okay. So part of it is just identifying where we are in time, realizing that there are methods, and that fact that we were not educated when it comes down to financial literacy and how to build wealth. Okay. So one of the main ways in which we correct this and we begin correcting is in essence what Soul Anchor Church is putting in place right now, right? Bringing resources to the table that discuss the aspect of financial literacy, building financial literacy amongst our communities in the area of financial health, right? Understanding and looking at budgeting, tracking our spending, making sure that we're choosing between the proper bank or credit unions, right? Understanding that one is going to provide a little bit more interest than the other, right? The differences in strategies for using your checking account and savings accounts, right? Making sure we have these things. Understanding the aspect between credit and debit, right? Credit cards and debit cards. Understanding how important credit can be used, right? Credit can be a very good tool if used properly, okay? And so understanding how important the credit report is, as well as the credit scores. Managing accounts, right? Students and credit cards, understanding that, one of the things that, which is a huge pitfall for a lot of students that attend higher education is that a lot of students find themselves in large amounts of debt, not just due to the student loans, but also to taking out or applying for credit cards and not properly utilizing those credit cards or using them for the right things, for the right reasons, okay? And therefore, bringing down their scores because their utilization or they stop paying on them and things like that, and it affects their scores. Building credit, right? Financial literacy has to cover the aspect of building credit, whether we're talking about building personal credit or we're talking about building business credit, right? And credit is the purpose of it is to be used for leverage, okay? Assets versus liabilities. Very important concept to understand so that way we're not spinning our wheels in the mud, acquiring liabilities that, depreciate over time in comparison to acquiring assets. Now, remember, we talked about generational wealth. Generational wealth is pertaining to the ability to pass down assets. We don't want to be passing down liabilities or debts, right? We want to be making sure that we're passing down assets. And then last, but super important, is understanding cash flow, right? A way in which we fix the income disparity is by figuring out ways to increase cash flow, okay? Or passive income. Let me do a quick check-in. Is everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. Now, we're gonna take a look at some strategies. I mentioned cash flow, and cash flow is just another word for passive income. And passive income can be defined as money that you earn without active involvement. Okay. In other words, it is income that isn't attached to an hourly wage or annual salary. Passive income streams could include things like cash flow from rental properties, dividend yielding stocks, sales of a product that require little or no effort, royalties, and more. All right. And so I'm going to go through the different types of income. All right. Passive income is almost like an umbrella term. And so there are a lot of different types of income that we can bring in as a community. Now, one of those and the most common one that we operate with is earned income. All right. And this is the most common type because most of us have had a job before, right? And so it's money that you make from a job. With the earned income, you are trading your time for money. Okay. This is most people's starting point, right? And we have to make sure that we pay ourselves first. Now, this is a concept when we go into, principles and financial literacy. Us at Northgate Financial, we actually teach a course. And one of the first starting points, and the most important starting point is a phrase that I use often, which is pay yourself first. And this is the idea of saving, okay? Being able to net something, you're trading your time for money. You have to save some of that energy. You have to save some of that money that you made by trading your time for money, because it is, in essence, going to be your catalyst for creating investments in other sources of income, okay? So this is most people's starting point. Make sure you pay yourself first in order to create an emergency fund and then fund other investments, all right? Our next strategy is profit income. A profit income comes from the sale of a product after expenses have been deducted. Okay, so some examples. Clothes, right? Let's say you are able to get clothes for a low cost, and you have a business and you turn around and sell those clothes at a markup price. As long as your profits at the once you've calculated it, you are able to re-up or get more. You cover all the expenses, right? And you have some left over. Now we're looking at profits. Okay, so profit income is a way in which we could build this. Now, I want you to think about the convenience stores in our neighborhoods, right? We see, they're not really owned by us, and they're selling basic products, snacks, liquor, basic household goods, and things like that that you may need, drinks, candy, you name it, right? And they're doing pretty decent, right? Because they're utilizing the profit income, right? So whoever owns that store is bringing in another source by taking advantage of profit income, right? So shoes could be done this way. I recently had some students show me that a pair of Jordans had recently sold for about $1,500, and it just really had me looking at, man, like people are willing to spend, top dollar on certain items. Food we mentioned could be used for profit income, books, right? Electronics, commodities, gaming systems, right? And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to spark some level of creativity. Because at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is how creative can we get when it comes to building wealth? Because part of it, you have to have a level of creativity to figure out different ways in which money can flow to you, or you can create other income streams, right? And so profit income is a way in which you can become creative and figure out, well, what are people attached to, or what are people liking? And then how can we get this to them? How can we get it at a cheaper cost? Okay. Now, interest income. It's equally important, right? Interest income is another way in which you do not have to trade your time and energy. This can be money earned from one entity lending to another entity, such as a person, company, or bank, right? This can also be referred to as interest from accounts such as savings accounts and certificates of deposits, right? There's a caveat with this one too. I would say that also you can take advantage of interest income utilizing certain life insurance policies as well. But the idea is that you're gaining interest, right? And that interest can then begin to compound. Also too, when we use our earned income and we begin saving and we are building up that nest egg to invest, one of the ways in which we can invest is through interest income, which is lending to businesses, right? And as the business is making their money back and they pay you, right, you're collecting interest off of that. Okay, so there's the aspect of once we reach a certain point, we want to become as the bank, right? We want to be like the bank. Banks are really good for lending out money. They have excess reserves, and with those reserves, they are lending money, right? We can do the same thing. One of the things that we find ourselves having a hard time with is securing funding for new business ideas, or being able to branch out and do certain things because we don't have funding. All right. And so if our community can begin to develop sound savings techniques and working together to build the bank, well, when we have someone in our community who has a great idea and a great work ethic and a great model and has shown a certain aptitude to be able to pay back their debts, and as well as be able to be a mover and shaker and get things done, then we would be able to lend to them. And in lending to them, they'll build up, their project or their business that benefits our community, and then they pay us back. All right. And so we repeat the model. Okay. And so interest income is, like I said, the aspect or ability to begin loaning out funds. Okay. And then collecting interest when the loan is paid back. Our next one, dividend income. Dividend income is a sum of money paid regularly and typically quarterly by a company to its shareholders out of its profits or reserves. Okay. Some of this may include index funds or dividend paying stocks. Some of the large companies, right? Walmart, Amazon, like these large cap companies, most of the times pay out a dividend. And that right there is income that you did not have to trade your time or energy for. Okay. And so just holding the stock is providing you a source of added funds coming into your account. Now, granted, also to be mindful that dividend income may fluctuate based upon market volatility. So we have to be aware that this one here, these numbers could change based upon how that company is performing. Okay, which brings into our finance, which is a very important term, which is diversification. So we don't want to just be overly invested in just one of these. We want to try to have multiples of these so that if the market does, doesn't perform super well, okay, our dividends didn't do too well, but we have profit. We have profit income. And we're also going to talk about having rental income. Okay. So let's look at rental income. Rental income is earned when you rent or lease a house, a car, or other property you own to someone else. Okay. So I know a lot of times with the rental property, we automatically go straight to real estate. But with the way that technology is increasing right now, I mean, we can turn a lot of different things into rental income. For instance, cars. Let's say we build up a business and that business is able to, acquire a luxury car. That luxury car could be rented out. And now that liability isn't necessarily operating like a liability, but now operates like an asset because it's bringing money in. Okay. The rental property, of course, there's the aspect of acquiring property and then renting it out, right? Whether we're talking, basic, residential property or even commercial property, and then being able to rent those out. Now that will require a larger sum if we're talking about financing it. However, there is the aspect that this is an asset that can be passed down. Okay. Parking spaces. There's apps now where you can actually, rent out parking space or storage space whether in your backyard, in your driveway. I came across a story where a guy was making $800 a month, allowing another person to park their RV on their driveway. All right. So, like I said, these things, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to show how we can become creative and find different ways to be able to bring more income into our households. Because as we do that, it increases our ability to buy more assets and then pass down those assets to our future generations. Okay. Renting bikes, right? People buy or rent bikes from Divvy all the time, right? That's here in Chicago. That's a company that the city seems like they're contracted with, where if people want to borrow a bike, they can rent it, and it's called Divvy. Okay. But if you have the right type of bikes and you can market it properly, and people may want to rent bikes from you, right? Airbnb is something new, and it shows that it's changing the whole tourism aspect, because now people may not be wanting to just stay in a hotel. They may book an Airbnb over a hotel just for a little bit more privacy and just because sometimes these Airbnbs are getting really extravagant, right? So there's that aspect. There's been stories of people renting out tools. All right. Like I said, we can be as creative as we want to be with these things. We just have to understand, when we do this, what type of income is it bringing in? And that will be considered rental income. Okay. And royalty income. Royalty income is generated when you own the rights to a piece of art, music, literature, or another asset licensed for other people to use, or from the extraction of oil, gas, or minerals. Okay. It would be amazing if we could get to this point of extraction of oil, gas, minerals. For those that are at that level where you can purchase some land and strike oil and things like that, that would be awesome. But for those who are not at that point just yet, social media is a way to begin collecting on royalties, right? I know TikTok has that aspect. YouTube has that aspect. Depending on how you set Instagram up, it has the potential to drive in leads that can turn into this here. Books, Amazon is allowing books to be published. You can publish your own books depending on how you want to do that. But it's the aspect of collecting royalties anytime your art or your work is used or seen or viewed. All right. So that's picture licensing, graphics, audio recordings, curriculums, right? Affiliate programs. You have some companies who are willing to pay for you to drive in leads to their products, and then they will give you commissions. Okay, so you are able to share in some of the royalties. Okay. Now, these strategies are a little bit more so for the aspect of creating windfalls and protecting what it is that we've been building. One is trust. And a trust is, some may have heard it referred to as like a trust fund, right? And as any assets held within a trust avoid probate and some estate taxes. Estate planning with trust protects your wealth against legal fees and costly transfer tax liabilities that impact the balance of your inheritance considerably. All right. So trust can be used as an asset protection tool, right? But it's also used as a way to be able to transfer said property. It's a way to be able to, I'm sorry about that. It's a way to be able to transfer your assets over seamlessly without having to go through probate. Now, probate is when a will or there is no trust set up, and that has the effect of where it goes into court, and then there's a almost like a bidding on who the assets are going to go to. Now, when you have a trust set up, none of those things have to go to court because it's already been set up who's going to come in and regulate or make sure that those assets are going to the specific beneficiaries that have been laid out. Now, the trust fund has the ability to stretch out, 100 years if you'll have it, and your family is equipped with the knowledge in how to do that. It can go on further, okay, beyond 100 years, right? And so, to me, this is a great strategy to make sure that we're not losing any of our acquired assets or even money in accounts due to certain estate taxes that happens when we pass away, or even losing it in probate. Okay, I'm hoping that this makes sense. One of the things that we do offer with Northgate Financial is the ability to learn about trust, but also how to set up trust and how to run trust effectively. Okay, and it's done at a reasonable rate. And it's, like I said, this is one of the most sound asset protection tools that can be used where you're able to lump in different things, right? A trust can be an owner of a business, right? A trust can be an owner of a life insurance policy, right? We're going to talk about life insurance in a second. The life insurance policy can pay out into a trust, right? And these brokerage firm accounts can be held by a trust, bank accounts held by a trust. It's so many things and so many different ways in which we can use this financial tool. That's why I put it underneath strategies. Okay. Now let's take a look at life insurance. Now, life insurance is a huge, I would call it a cheat code to building a large windfall. And a lot of times we don't realize that we can utilize life insurance while we're alive. Now, when looking at life insurance, in compared to generational wealth, we have to look at it from the standpoint of is it being viewed as an asset? Now, term life insurance, which only pays out to your dependents in the event of your death, is not necessarily considered an asset. Okay. However, whole life insurance and other types of life insurance that have a cash value component built into it are considered assets because you can withdraw funds from your policy while you're alive, and you can use those funds to fund other investments. Right? Some people are able to use those funds as tax-free retirement because when the life insurance is cutting a check to you and sending it to you out of your life insurance policy, those funds cannot be taxed. Okay. And so this here has a lot of potential. There's actually somebody in the class right now who distributes and sets up life insurance policies. Is one of my close friends as well. His name is Elliot Hitchcock. he definitely would be more than happy to talk with people and to assist them with understanding life insurance as well. Um, just keep that in mind. But life insurance is definitely a tool that can be utilized to build generational wealth, right? Because whether we're looking at using it while we're alive, living benefit side of it, we can grab assets or invest in our communities. And then at the same time, too, if we pass away, then the life insurance company is required to pay a reasonable sum of money, which I would hope is going to your trust or going to, a business that, is going to be used to grab more assets or different income streams. Okay. Now, one of the other ones we cannot forget is business. Okay. Businesses have the ability to be passed down, right? And businesses are super important when we're talking about building generational wealth. All right. And so consider creating a business in conjunction with one or two of the passive income streams to leave to your heirs, right? There's a lot of different types of businesses that you can create, right? Where there's LLCs, corporations, and you can change how you want them to be viewed and taxed. DBAs, partnerships, nonprofits, associations, and even business trusts, right? These things we do help people set up. If you're looking to set up certain types of businesses, we can also consult and kind of help you, because I know, like I said, we can get very creative with different ways in which we want to go about business. And having these businesses allows us to be able to level up even more. All right. One of the main things, me as a father, I want to make sure that when my children get of age of working, I want to be able to provide them a job. Right now, if they decide they want to go and do something and pursue their own business and things like that, that's great too. I'll employ, somebody else amongst the tribe, or, we can employ somebody else within our community. But having the businesses is one thing. I remember I was working, and this is back when I was studying, everything pertaining to finance. And I had encountered a lady and her husband, and they were telling me that they were getting ready to go to, it was a specific college campus in Florida. And they had mentioned that they had a subway in their trust, and they were going to go and set that subway up there because they felt that they could bring in more income from that subway there. And I was like, man, like they just have businesses sitting in trust, that they can move around. And that spoke values, but it really opened my eyes that you have people out here, and of course they were from a different demographic, but they gave a cheat code right there. I mean, they gave a major play that shows that when we are growing our capital or our from our savings, or we're bringing in more income and things like that, we can strategize in a different way. We can buy franchises, right? Franchises held in trust, right? And our children, while in high school, if they need a job, can work in those franchises, right? We just have to start looking at it from a different light. Look at it in a different way. Let me continue on. Now, last plague. This is another scripture. I found this to be very interesting. This is actually right before the Hebrews were released from captivity in Egypt. And Exodus 11, this is the last plague that the Most High was going to put on Egypt because he wouldn't let, Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go. Okay, so it went from Joseph helping Egypt to not, financially collapse. And then, some time later, they're finding themselves in captivity and they need to be released. Okay. And so verse 1 of chapter 11 says, and the Lord said unto Moses, yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards, he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. So he's going to release y'all after this one. All right. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every man and every woman of her neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold. Okay. Let me read this next one. I'm gonna sum up what this is conveying. Exodus 12, verse 34. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. All right, so they got clothes, they got silver, and they got gold. All right, and they borrowed it. Right, they got it on credit. All right, and the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. All right, and so in this instance, right, this is like how Israel, is being birthed from out of Egypt, but they not leaving out of Egypt broke, right? They didn't leave out of Egypt with nothing. They actually left with one of the most, back then this was the money, right? Gold and silver once upon a time used to be the currency. Right now we're using a fiat form of currency. And so this scripture right here is showing that the Most High gave them a word of understanding to borrow gold and silver, because once they left out of there, that gold and silver could become a currency and they could use that when it came to building their nation. All right. And so this was a huge, huge strategy that they were able to execute before being released from captivity. Now, I put this in here because this is also one of the events that allowed Israel to be able to continue to grow and become a very prosperous nation, right? Because of the amount of gold and the silver that they were able to acquire. And then, of course, the principles that they learned while in the wilderness for the 40 years. Okay. And so I want everybody to make sure that you are taking away from this particular story is that when you are able to understand economic activity and you're able to understand, currencies, and these things I teach other classes on, and I could provide that information, you will notice that currencies switch over time. And we are approaching a time where currency is going to be switching again, right? We see the aspect in the arrival of Bitcoin, which is a currency. We're seeing cryptocurrencies, right? Russia has switched to a gold back or a gold standard again, right? And so the idea is that if we are able to gather gold and silver again before it switches to a gold and silver backed currency, then you would have a lot of value because it is drastically undervalued. Okay. And so these are principles that the Bible is trying to make sure that we remember and that we pay attention to. There's no new thing under the sun, and history repeats itself. We just have to be able to understand history, learn from it, and then apply it. Now, these are the takeaways I want to make sure that everybody takes away from what I've been talking about today. The main header is legacy, leadership, financial foundation, and family lending. Okay. Now, when we look at legacy, right, and this is a word when we first started talking at the beginning of this presentation, a couple of people mentioned the word legacy, right? It's passing on money and knowledge. Okay. It's one thing to pass on just, assets. And if you don't give the knowledge with it, then the assets will be lost over time. Okay. A family mission and values. We got to get back to teaching values because that's what's going to sustain the generational wealth and make sure we have the ability to maintain it and not squander it. Right. Traditions and memory. All of those go along with legacy. Right. Leadership. Having a family council. Learning and growing, serving and nurturing. Right. The leadership in the family needs to make sure that they are operating along that lines, right? Serving, nurturing the family, right? Learning, growing, right? Building, right? And having the family operate as an organization in a solid business front, right? Financial foundation, super important, is a family fund, okay? The family fund could be, to start off, y'all just, utilizing a savings account, but it could even, once you understand the aspect of trust, that should be your trust fund, a family trust fund. Okay. Savings and protection. Everything should be about building up that nest egg for your future generations and making sure that it has ways in which it's protected. Okay. Diversification is super important with that one too. Now, family lending, borrowing and replenishing. If there is legacy, if there is leadership, if there is a financial foundation, and you are to borrow from your family, you have to understand the importance of paying it back, right? Because if not paid back, then you're just really robbing your family, right? But if paid back, you're pouring back into the family, especially if the loan allowed you to build more wealth, right? You're building for your family now. Funding for opportunities, right? Having that nest egg and that financial foundation allows you to be able to fund new business ideas and ventures, or even other people's, and have a stake in it, right? And so all of these four are designed to build perpetual wealth. All right. And that concludes the presentation. I'm hoping that this brought some awareness and some understanding of what generational wealth is and how we can begin to get to building generational wealth in our close nuclear families. If anyone wants to contact us for further future services, some of the things that we provide assistance with is family trust, business trust, entity formations, business credit. Right, we have ebooks that assist with building business credit. Gives you the outline for what some of these banks are looking for, and also what these business credit reporting agencies are looking for. Financial literacy classes for teens and young adults, as well as adults too. Motivational speaking and seminars. My contact information is at the bottom, the phone number and the email. If anyone has questions, we could go ahead and do that. I know I talked a little bit. I'm hoping that this was informative for you. You guys can kind of chime in now.
You said you had a friend in the chat who offered us life insurance. Can he put his information in the chat also?
Let's see if he's still on. Elliot, are you still present? He's not in. I will forward his information to Brian, and Brian can send this out to everyone. Send his information out to everyone. He's a good brother as well. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they wanted to add in, or
There's
we're
just
good?
a couple of things in the chat. That's all.
Oh, I didn't even look at the chat. Let's see. Excellent information. Cool. All right. It's been a pleasure, y'all. I definitely appreciate everybody for checking out the presentation and being a part of this. And I'm super excited for the future and seeing us as we level up, because I have a feeling that this is our time as a people. You know, we're getting ready to really break through some barriers. Thanks, Lee. Lee England just posted. He says, "Great job, bro. This conversation needs to become much more common within our community. Powernomics is a great book to read about these ideals." Most definitely. Thank you.
I feel like there needs to be a part 2.
I'm definitely here for a part 2. Going more into depth if you all want that in the future. I definitely appreciate it. Sounds like somebody speaking.
Well, thank you very much for hanging out with us today, everyone. We hopefully you enjoyed it. I will tell you that there was lots of great feedback in our Facebook chat and about shifting the mindset and some of the things that you discussed today. And so you've indeed blessed us, and we appreciate you. And we're excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited about the growth that each of us received today, and how we can take this and apply it. The whole objective here is hopefully none of us are leaving here and just going to take all the information we received today and sit it on a shelf and not do nothing with it. That would not be helpful to anyone. And so great job. Pastor Young is also in our Zoom chat, and she is saying to you part 2 would be great. so we'll get working on that and see how we can work that out. And she also loves your background. So awesome. Well, everyone, once again, great job to Eliyahu. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And for all of those who are sharing, I just want to remind us once again that this month for Soul Anchor is all focused and geared on those things that we discussed today, that finance and wealth. And so again, I'm just going to share with you some of the second session is going to be taking place on March 25th, 2022. March 25th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Is going to be our second session. And Elder Duran Allen is going to be presenting on the principles of finance and savings. The principles of finance and savings. So he's going to take a savings perspective, which if we were listening real good, we heard today is one of those ways we build generational wealth, is being able to put something away and focus and make sure our assets are properly accounted for. And so let's look to be see everyone on that date, March 25th, 2022. It's going to be at 7 p.m. That's a Saturday, and it'll be in this same space. So share this same link. Share the same link with folks. Share the flyer. It's on our Facebook page, and folks can join us in this same space as we continue to develop our skill sets on finance and wealth. And then also remember that each Wednesday night for the remainder of the month of March, we're in our series on the 7 biblical principles. It's a Friday. Yes, I'm sorry. March 25th is a Friday, 7 p.m. Friday, March 25th, 2022 is 7 p.m. That's a Friday evening. Each Wednesday night, 6 p.m., we're going to be finishing up our series on the 7 biblical principles of finance and wealth. We have already started the first 3 last Wednesday night, and that video is on YouTube and on Facebook. You can check out that video to look at those first 3 principles that we went over in our weekly Wednesday Bible study on last week Wednesday at 6 p.m. So go ahead, check it out so that you're prepared to hear the great things that we're going to be presenting next week Wednesday as we talk about the next 2, and then the following week we'll wrap up with the final 3 principles of finance and wealth. Really excited about being able to share this with everyone, and hopefully if you're not doing anything, you can join us and be a part of what we're doing here at Soul Anchor. We're indeed building a church, building a community, building a people that are building the ark. And sometimes I say I feel like Noah because I'm telling folks it's going to rain. I'm telling folks famine is coming. I'm telling folks it's not going to look so great very soon. And that's what Noah did. And some people believed him and listened to him, and some people ignored Noah. Well, I'm telling our people, everybody I can, that we're building an ark here at Soul Anchor Church. And that's an acronym. It stands for accountability, relationship, and knowledge. We got to be accountable to one another and to God. We've got to build relationships among our communities and with one another, as we heard today, so that we can continue to bridge that gap that allows for us to have the community that affords us to build the wealth that we discussed today. And finally, knowledge, right? It's all about empowerment. You know, as our presenter said today, you can pass all the money you want down, but if you don't pass the knowledge with it, money and that wealth gets squandered away. And so let's think through that as we're going throughout the remainder of our weekend. And we're happy we're out in a good time, and you can enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It's been raining out my way, so I don't know how much enjoyment outside I'll do, but in the various places from across the country that we have visitors and those who are sharing with us and guests, hopefully you can enjoy the remainder of your weekend. So join us, like our page on Facebook, Soul Anchor Church, please, and visit those videos that are out there on YouTube. We're excited to be able to share this information with you. And in my closing prayer today, as I pray us out, I also will put on the screen. My wife said it's good sleeping weather. Yeah, it is. I need to finish closing the books for my business, and so I won't be getting any sleep, at least not in this morning. But in my closing prayer anyway, I want to pray a blessing over each and every one of us as we go to our separate destinations, and those of us that are in our homes and whatever we're doing throughout the day. We want to pray that blessing over you and invite you to join us in all of our weekly services here at Soul Anchor. On Sunday morning, our services begin at 11:30 a.m. And our live stream starts at 12 noon. You're welcome to share with us on Facebook as we share in ministry each Sunday morning. And then on Tuesday nights, we have a prayer service and a praise and testimony service that allows for you to gather with like-minded faith folks and tell of the goodness of the Most High and the great things that He has done for us. And so feel free to share in that service as well. And again, on Wednesday, we've already announced that as well. All right. So I'm going to pray us out in a prayer of benediction. I will also place on the screen some methods by which, should you desire to share and support this ministry, I will share some methods of giving on the screen as well. Here at Soul Anchor, we don't believe in begging people or browbeating people or making folks feel bad about giving, because the Most High takes care of us. But we will offer you that opportunity to give should you desire. And we'll go ahead and say our prayer of benediction at this time. So, Father, we thank you for this time of sharing, and we thank you for each individual who has joined us in this session today. Father, we pray that the message that we've received, the knowledge that we've received today, that it not fall on stony grounds or among thorns, but that it falls among open hearts and open ears that are ready to not only receive and hear the word, but also be doers of what we've heard today, the knowledge that we've received today. Open our understanding, God, and put us in a position where we can apply what it is that we've heard. And we'll trust you for it. And as we end this session today, it is our prayer, Lord, that you protect each and every one of us from all danger, both danger seen and danger that's even unseen, the danger that we're not even aware of. We pray you cover us and protect us until we meet again at the next time. We love you and praise you for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless you to everyone. Methods of giving are there on the screen. Electronic giving via Givelify or Cash App. If you'd like to mail a gift in, feel free to mail it to the P.O. Box there, 1226 here in Kokomo, Indiana, 46903. Your gifts and contributions allow for us to keep doing things like this and supporting the mission of building the A.R.K of today here in Kokomo, Indiana. So please feel free to give via Givelify. That's an app that you can find on your phone or on your device. Cash App, we all got that little green bubble somewhere on our phones. Feel free to share $ Soul Anchor Church. Is how you can give there, or feel free to mail any check or money order contribution to the P.O. Box on the screen. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming. God bless you. To see you next time. Bye.